Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, this is Shelley. If you would like to learn more about astrology, check out Learn Astrology, an ebook digital download online at angeliczodiac.com.
Hello, and welcome to the June 3rd, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with me, Astrologer Shelley Overton. I want to welcome you to this week's podcast. We've got actually kind of a pretty intense week coming up, and I'm also going to go over the planets and lights for you so you kind of have an idea what they all mean. You know, I talk about them every week, but I don't know if I really talk much about them. Occasionally, here and there, I suppose if you listen a long time, you have a good idea of what's going on. I'm going to turn this light on real quick. There we go. I think that might help a little bit. Anyway, okay, so yeah, the sun. We're going to talk about all the planets and lights from the center out. And the sun is, of course, at the center of the universe. Well, our universe, not the universe. Our solar system. And so the sun is the ego, the sense of self, the sense of playfulness, a sunny disposition. The sun is the ruler of the sign of Leo, and it is kind of what we think of it as. It's very bright and happy, cheerful. We look for sunny days, and in the zodiac, it rules children, it rules playfulness and creativity. And when you have a sun transiting through the zodiac, of course, it gives you a stronger sense of self. And wherever it falls, even if it isn't in your sign, you can get that brightness shining on whichever sign it is. And so it makes us feel a little bit more aware of whichever energy it's in. And then for 30 days, 28 days, was it 30 days? I guess it's 30, 31, 28, depending on which month it is. The sun moves through a sign, and we get that sense of that particular zodiac sign. And so, you know, sun being in Leo, we feel in our own energy. We feel comfortable and playful and focus more on family or children, as I've said. And so, yeah, you know, I think sometimes talking about individual energies is a little bit difficult, but when they interact with each other, that's when it becomes much more profound, I would say. But anyway, that's the sun. The moon, I'm going to jump to the moon. Of course, it's not the next body away from the sun, but the moon, sun and the moon tend to stay together in our minds, you know, the sun, moon, and the stars. So the moon obviously is a satellite entity of the earth. And so because of that, it has a tremendous pull on us, not only in our psyche, but physically. There's a magnetic pull to the moon. And the moon represents home and family. It is in horary astrology, Horary. That's a type of astrology where you actually get into deciding the answer to a question based on the moment the question was asked. And so in that type of astrology, the moon acts as an indicator of how a situation will culminate or finish up. So I tend to use that because I do horary astrology. I do that. I use the moon in that way anyway. The moon is a wonderful indicator of the storyline. And the moon will bring us into our emotions. It helps us understand where we're a little insecure or where we need more security, where we need nurturing. It shows us our family. It shows us our interpersonal relationships with other people close to us. And of course, it is very symbolic of mother and the energy of nurturing and being close with another human being and being nurtured in a secure sense. It also can indicate, being that it rules Cancer, Cancer's home and family, it is domesticity, cooking, and decorating. I think the moon can incline us to doing those things. It also rules women's cycles, believe it or not. When you look at a natal chart, a woman's natal chart, the distance between the sun and the moon replicates every month, and that is the ovulation cycle. So whenever the moon is the same amount of degrees from the sun, that's when we are inclined to ovulate. And then, of course, your cycle continues from there. Mercury, Earth, of course, is the second rock from the sun, and Mercury is the third rock from the sun. So Mercury is let me back up. Okay, so Earth, excuse me, I just got a new headband. Earth isn't in astrology per se the way we read. It isn't the ring around the birth chart, but it is the center of the birth chart, and that is a geocentric chart. So geo, of course, means Earth, and most people do a geocentric chart because geocentricity is looking at the place that we all live, the Earth. There is also a heliocentric, which puts the sun at the center of the chart, which is a really interesting way of reading it because, of course, we are not on the sun, but it lays out the planets more in the way it would be if the sun were the first person, the center of everything. And then you see how the solar system looked basically when you were born, from the sun being at the center. But anyway, so the Earth is the center, like I just kind of consider it the center circle of the zodiac chart, the birth chart. So we kind of have an understanding. The weird thing is, and I haven't researched this more, but in a chart you have the center line through the middle, and that is the horizon line. But the eastern horizon is on the left side, and if you look at a map of the world, it's on the right side. The east is to the right and the west is to the left, but in a birth chart it's the opposite. So I have never researched this, but I'd be curious to know if there were a system of astrology where that were reversed and actually more Western Hemisphere kind of layout of a chart. I should do that. But anyway, just a little aside. So Mercury, being the third planet from the sun, or third, let's see. Yeah, Venus. Venus is closer, but that's okay. We're just going to go Mercury, Venus. Well, I'd have to, let's see. Is it? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I thought Mercury was closer to the sun than Venus. It is. So we're going to go to Mercury. Mercury is a fast-moving planet, and it is the ruler of two signs, Gemini and Virgo. And in the Gemini energy, it is expressive in the air energy, and in Virgo, it is Earth. So in Gemini, we are chatty, we are in our thoughts, in our mental space, and we want to express through words and through writing. We are very chatty. That's the energy of Gemini there. And Mercury. Mercury is a planet that rules communication. It is in mythology, it was the fleet-footed messenger, which is the symbol of a man with shoes that had wings on him. And so Mercury always represents communication, but also expression of information and, giving that out. And that is really a strong Gemini trait, is communication. It is also kind of a Virgo trait because Virgo shares that particular planet, but it is Earth expression. So it's much more tangible. It's like doing your books and writing things down and administrative work, things like that. It's much more process oriented as opposed to just thought. Yeah, so Mercury goes retrograde. I think it's the most well-known retrograde of the zodiac. And when he does, he pulls back energy from communication and technology. And because technology is such a big part of what we do right now, in the world. We have become a technological process society. And so that is always going to be affected when Mercury retrogrades. And it just kind of depends on which sign it's in as to how much technology and communication is affected. Right now, Mercury is retrograde in Gemini, so of course it's going to be one of the harsher Mercury retrogrades. And then when it gets in, say, a water sign, we may have more flooding, more emotionalism in how we communicate. We may not communicate. So it kind of just depends on which sign it's in as to how it expresses during the retrograde. And let me see, what else can I tell you? It rules small animals, it rules reptiles, it rules neighbors, and Mercury rules all the things that both Gemini and Virgo rule, but that's why they are associated with these different areas of understanding, areas and processes and events and people and animals and different, like whatever is assigned to Mercury, that is by default part of the energy that goes on to the zodiac sign that it rules. Okay, so Mercury is about teachers and about children and education. My daughter has Jupiter in Gemini in the house of career, so she's pursuing an elementary education career, and that is just so perfect. That is very accurate to Jupiter in Gemini in the career house. So wherever Mercury is, that is where we can find the communication side of our nature and how we communicate. Oh man, I could just go on and on about this because I have 4 planets ruled by Virgo, so of course they all answer to Mercury in my chart. But maybe we'll get into it another time, or I'm really going to do some more videos about the different astrology segments. But anyway, okay, going on to Venus. Venus is the goddess of love, and so of course she rules things we desire. She rules beauty. She rules makeup and hair and fashion, retail, because she's the second house. She's the ruler of the second sign in the second house, which is Taurus in the zodiac. And so it becomes about manifestation. It is an earth sign. And so Venus can be a tremendous manifester depending on which sign she falls into in your natal chart. Like say Venus in Sagittarius, she's more about freedom than she is about money. Venus in Gemini means that you can get more money through your voice. Venus in Taurus, you may have a beautiful voice, or texture and using tactile senses and taste are all part of Taurus and the Venus energy as well. So you may be a really good cook or chef if you have Venus in Taurus. Anyway, Venus is desire. So in the chart, it rules love, money, and desire, and values, what we value in a monetary sense, or just in an ideological sense. Venus rules value. Okay, moving on to Mars. Mars is an interesting. I think instead of having a scratchy nose, I have an itchy head. It's so funny. It's like hitting the back of my head now. The last 2 weeks, I've been getting my head messages, I think. Anyway, so I guess you can't really always control how your body behaves while you're trying to record something. Anyway, okay, so Mars. Mars, probably trying to avoid this procrastination on Mars. Mars is the ruler of Aries. He is the god of war and the aggressor in the zodiac. He is where we find our irritations. He's where we are angry, wherever we get stimulated towards anger. He can bring out people who are more aggressive to us and also our own aggressive tendencies, but he is also ambitious. And in the zodiac, that's one of the things that you can look for in a chart, is where does Mars fall? And that's where the engine of your career falls. That's where you are driven to do something, because Mars is a very forthright, active energy. He will take the reins and get things going. And that's part of his driven nature, that he's definitely a sign, being a fire, the ruler of a fire sign, Aries, he wants to get things done. And so wherever we have that in our chart, that's where we want to get things done, both in the house and also in the sign. And so just I'll take mine as a case in point. I have Mars in Cancer, 27 degrees. So I'm almost in a Mars return. And, the story of my time right now is trying to decide where I want to live, because I have been staying with a family member for about 6 months because I've been trying to decide where I should be. And I'm still trying to narrow that down. But the drive to have a home of my own is very strong. And I was renting until I moved out about a year and a half ago, right during the pandemic, and my daughter going to college. Those of you who've listened to the podcast, you understand all this. I just don't know where I'm going to be. So I think I'm narrowing it down to staying in Florida. I was thinking of going to the other side of the country, but for now, maybe staying here. And so Mars in Cancer is about home and how we view home and taking action towards the home and to being a family, which is really strong for me personally. And I also have Moon in the first house. So my identity is very closely linked to the sign of Cancer and the energy of the Moon. But, and currently we are all dealing with Mars in Cancer. So now you all kind of understand the energy that I live with every day. And that is, my drive is very associated with where the Moon is. So, because, Mars in Cancer answers to the Moon. Okay, so anyway, Mars is where we have aggression, where we can see war, where we can see fighting and anger and issues that are masculine traditionally expressing themselves. It is about sports and competition. It can be about building things. It is the sign of carpenters and carpenters and building contractors. That's the word I'm looking for. And yeah, usually doing something physical helps people really get over any anger that they may have, because it is a physical energy. It is expressed through the physical. Anyway, so yeah, those of you who are paying attention to current astrology, Mars in Cancer is in opposition now to Pluto. And I'm going to just kind of sprinkle in some current astrology. It makes it easier to fit everything in, as long as we're talking about Mars and Cancer. It is directly opposite Pluto right now. So, of course, there is a lot of seething under the surface anger that we're feeling, because we'll get to Pluto in a second, but Pluto is very much an aggressive energy as well in a lot of ways. And being opposite Mars, it means that we are basically having a standoff of energy. And I can tell you Pluto's probably going to win, because Pluto's pretty powerful. I mean, Mars is powerful, but Pluto's even more powerful, and we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so I think you kind of get an idea about Mars. If you have any questions, please leave them for me on Facebook. So Angelic Zodiac on Facebook, but also AstroEnergy on Facebook, or Instagram. I also have that. I don't have an AstroEnergy on Instagram. I have Angelic Zodiac on Instagram. So, yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, and it's noon straight up. What do you know? Okay, so we've got Jupiter. Jupiter is a very expansive planet, and he is about 1,000 times the size of Earth, if you can even wrap your mind around that. I mean, when I found that out, that was just like stunning to me, that there is a body out there in the universe that is so enormous. And of course, it's all relative, because we're humans, so we're just little things on the surface of this planet. But in relative size, Jupiter is enormous. And so Jupiter expands. That's a major part of what he does. And he wants to keep moving. He wants to be on the go. He is considered one of the most fortunate planets of the zodiac in rulership, in influence. He rules Sagittarius, which ergo is one of the most fortunate signs of the zodiac. And wherever he falls in the chart, in the sky or in your natal chart, that's where you expand energy. So let me see, I have Jupiter in Taurus at the end degrees of the eighth house. I'm already very heavily influenced by the energy of Scorpio, but that is the Scorpio house. And so it's about joint finances and beauty because it's in Taurus. And currently we've got Jupiter in Pisces. And so right now we are, well, and it's not going to stay there for long. It's only through mid-July. But we have 6 more weeks of Jupiter in Pisces for this year until next year. The end of the year, he'll move back in after his retrograde. He'll come back into Aquarius, but go back into Pisces. And so Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and it really embraces the energy of Neptune, but we'll get to that in a minute too. So it expands psychic awareness, it expands the ethereal realm, it expands the unknown, the unseen, the hidden things that are in the ocean because it is a water energy, Pisces. But Jupiter itself wants to keep moving. It doesn't want to dig deep. So in Pisces, it's a bit uncomfortable, I would say, but of course it is a co-ruler. It is a co-ruler along with Neptune of Pisces. So it's been said that it's comfortable in this energy. I'm not so sure it's comfortable in this energy because Jupiter's nature is to keep moving, and water tends to bog it down. Water gets the emotions. What it does, though, in a positive sense, is it expands awareness of how we're all connected. And the positive energy of Jupiter, it rules foreign culture and foreign affairs. It rules things that are a long distance away. Culture that is way away from ours, it is not familiar to us. And so Pisces is an energy of inclusion and bringing things together. And so Jupiter expands the inclusion of multiple cultures, which I find really, I've got chills with that. I find that really wonderful and honestly optimistic. And Jupiter is a very optimistic planet as a rule, but he is transformational and he helps with transitions. So he can be an indicator of when people are transitioning in their lives, but also from one way of being to another, spiritual growth, expansion of our knowledge. He does rule higher education. And so where Mercury rules elementary education, Jupiter rules post-secondary education and college, master's degrees, things like that. So you want a positive placement of Jupiter if you're electing a chart for higher education. And I mean, you could say Jupiter in Pisces is good for that. I would put Jupiter in Aquarius as a little bit better, although Jupiter in Aquarius, which he will be here starting July through December again, is a little more impatient and will potentially stop doing something this way because they get tired or bored or they think they know how it is, and so now they go on to the next thing. Okay, so Saturn comes after Jupiter, and Saturn is, I'm going to try and rein myself in. I have so many feelings about Saturn. Saturn is a very strong, potent energy. He rules Capricorn, he rules systems, government, structures. He is the roots of the tree. He is where we refuse to change. And, Aquarius, Saturn's in Aquarius right now. Aquarius is teaching Saturn how to let go and to change. And he is giving the structure of change to us. So in other words, if we feel anxious, it's because we have fear of the unknown. That's my personal observation. And that we are picking up energy that has shifted. And so Saturn is trying to get his grounding. He's trying to find the tangibility of Aquarius. He's trying to find the system and the structure and the reliability. And so the phrase, change is the only constant, absolutely is Saturn and Aquarius. And so when we have this energy, we are finding our own footing, we are finding our truth, and we are looking to be grounded while we are not feeling very grounded. Sorry, I have a lot of Clorox apparently was used out in the main part of the house this morning, and it's giving me a bit of congestion, although I tend to have that every week. I think that's also part of spiritual and light work, is when you start to vibrate at that higher pace and the higher level to give information, your body has to adjust, and it's kind of almost like the toxins start to come out, and so you can get a bit congested when you start to do any kind of spiritual work or energy work, just so you know if you're new to this. Anyway, pause the camera so you don't have to go through that with me, but there's a very heavy pool smell in the house today. Okay, so Saturn, yeah, also procrastinating with that. Saturn in your chart shows you where your career is because Saturn rules the career house. It's the 10th house. But in your chart, it can also be where you have a weakness and need to grow. So as an example, Saturn in Pisces can bring people to their knees from addiction. Saturn retrograde in Pisces can make a person very aware of that nature and sidestep it better. I personally have Saturn in Pisces, and it is retrograde in my chart, and so it makes me more conscientious of the addictive side of Pisces, and so I'm not as inclined. I mean, when I do, I mean, right now I think my one addiction would be coffee, and I'm not having coffee today. I'm having kombucha and water. But I do have a renewed addiction to coffee, which I gave up for years and years and years. I only drank water for like 8 years. And then I started drinking coffee as a connecting event with my daughter when she went to high school. And I think lately when I'm like, oh, I want to drink water again because I think the coffee isn't completely good. I only have 1 cup a day. It's not as easy. I really enjoy the smell. I enjoy the making of it. I have a little machine. And so your addictive nature can come out. And there are things that when you get into the feeling of something becomes a comfort. And that's what Neptune, it addresses, that need for comfort. And yeah, so having Saturn in your chart, you're really looking for where your career is. And of course, Saturn in Pisces for me, there's definitely an intuitive aspect to mine. But mine being retrograde, it moved into Aquarius early on in my life, and Aquarius rules astrology. So I have a dualistic career between astrologer and artist, and I really like to incorporate both. And I'm going to take this moment because I want to share. This is my latest piece here. I put a little glitter on it because I'm feeling glitter right now. I'm always feeling glitter, let's be real. So yeah, anyway, I've got both careers, and that's the nature of Aquarius. So we'll get to Aquarius and Aquarius energy here in a minute. It seems like there's so many planets, right? Anyway, I'm definitely going to have to timestamp these. It's going to be an effort editing. But yeah, anyway, Saturn. Saturn is a restrictive energy. He tends to pull in the reins. He wants to organize and ground. So for the energies that are not particularly a fan of that, which would be anything but an earth sign, I would say, Saturn can be really difficult. And when you have a transit of Saturn, you're going to find restriction in whichever house he falls into. And, you know, so I've had that running through my 4th house of home and family. And there have definitely been some emotional energies going through my home life that have been difficult in the last 2 years that I've had that. Saturn wants us to strengthen our muscles through restriction. It's like lifting weights. You're not going to get stronger unless you have resistance. And that's what Saturn gives us. So wherever he is in the chart, that's where your life purpose can be found in your natal chart, and your growth can be found in the transit. Let's see. Uranus. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and he is a planet I could talk endlessly about. I love Uranus. I love Aquarius energy, which doesn't seem right. I have a Scorpio rising and 2 planets in Scorpio, And it doesn't necessarily get along with about half of my planets, but I have Uranus in the sign of my sun, so it gives me that added connection. And Uranus is an eclectic planet. He rules anything in a very, very large mass connection way, electrical. So he is the internet. He is lightning storms. He is storms. He is planets and space and Star Trek and science and technology. He is computers. He is our ability to reach the masses. He is the connectedness of everyone through the internet. He is the scope of ideas. He is an inventor. I've got chills with that. He is an inventor and he is the genius. He is probably the most interesting planet by what he rules in the zodiac. He rules the sign of Aquarius, and Aquarians are endlessly curious about everything. And technology, in my opinion, computers, we are in the technology age that is definitely a drive from the Aquarian age coming in, and probably particular transits going on at the time in the late 70s, early 80s. But we can basically credit Aquarius for giving us technology because he needs the faster means of connecting the masses. When the pandemic hit, we had Uranus going into Taurus. We are experiencing the bringing to the earth plane of this amazing, powerful, independent nature of this planet. When he went into Taurus, we saw that now we have to work on the computer, that people were not meeting in person. They were learning how to value technology for their money. And it's really interesting because I've said for years that when Uranus goes into Taurus, it's going to shift and change how we think about money and the process of money. It is cryptocurrency. But the move into Taurus, it just counts for so many things. It can mean that we are going to try and harness the power of air because he is an air planet. He rules an air sign. And it's, again, ideas, the mind. It's like Mercury on steroids. And so having all this amazing power in the planet, in an earth sign, it's like we are now channeling that intensity down to earth, and we can come up with new ways of feeding people. I'm very excited about that because Taurus rules agriculture and food, and Uranus is going to bring new ideas and new technologies to the effort of agriculture. We are going to maybe look at food in an alternate way. And, definitely as a vegan, I'm seeing more people getting on board with veganism, but also Impossible Burgers. Whoever would have thought that that would be on the menu at a Burger King that, all across the country, not just California. But there it is. And I think they sold out. I've gone to get it because I am a vegan and they sell out. So it is an interesting time. It's going to be a time of alternate everything because Aquarius/Uranus is about the alternate. It's about multiples and multiplicity. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see births that are multiple births, like quintuplets and twins and any form, triplets, any form of multiple births, because Taurus is fertility, Taurus is birth and the material world. So I think that we're going to probably have that coming. Anyway, so Uranus, wonderful planet, really love Uranus. And believe it or not, he looks a lot like Saturn. He has rings as well. And I'm really excited about that for some reason. I'm like, look at you, Saturn's not the only one with rings. Anyway, okay, Neptune. Neptune is an enigma as well as Uranus, but Neptune rules the oceans and water and emotions. And he is the connectedness to spirit and all things spiritual. He rules psychic awareness and psychic ability. So wherever we have Neptune in our chart, he also rules ideals and the vision of what we can make happen. And he is an enormously creative energy. He is Venus on steroids, which means he is also about not only the desire on a mundane level, but the compulsion to expand a broader vision of things. Um, he will hide things because he, like the nature of Neptune, should be probably a she. But yeah, it is extremely emotional and sensitive in an intuitive way. So wherever Neptune falls in our chart, that's where we can really infuse our lives with intuition. And people, wherever your Neptune is where you have an extra added psychic talent, so to speak. If you have a conjunction with another planet, like today, I'm looking at the chart, Neptune and the moon are conjunct, and for a few minutes. Anyway, I think it changes fairly rapidly here at 1:59 p.m., which is in about an hour, 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes. And so Moon and Neptune together today is meaning that we're just that extra added sensitive and emotional and want to hide and not necessarily look at the world the way it is, but the way we would like it to be. Neptune can bring us into an amazing space of creation. It is really a catalyst for Saturn in a lot of ways because the vision comes from Neptune and the manifestation comes from Saturn via Mars. So wherever, oh my God, there's so many little itches all over. Yeah, so having the moon and Neptune conjunct definitely affects Mars and Cancer right now because Cancer is answering to the moon. So there's just even more intensity as Neptune and the moon are in trine to Mars today. And so it's all about the deep immersion in the water. I mean, like, just picture yourself. I picture a dolphin that's going above and then down into the water and back up. It's kind of like I'm seeing what's going on, but I'm keeping ahead and moving. And I'm going down in the water, and I live in the water. I live in that realm. But coming up, taking a peek, and going back down again. That's kind of where we are today. Yeah, if you feel very tired, if you feel like closed off, Mars and Neptune are going to be trying for a little while. Let's see, Mars, check out when Mars heads into the next sign. He goes into Leo on the 11th of June. So a week, just over a week from today, we have Mars going into Leo. Anyway, yeah, so Neptune is the ruler of the oceans. He is like Triton in the Little Mermaid series. He's the guy with the trident. And so he's going to teach us over the course. I mean, right now he's at 23 Pisces, and it's his own realm. He's in the water. I'm really kind of surprised we haven't done more or learned more about the oceans during this transit. But as he gets ready to go into Aries, I do believe he's going to make himself much more known in society. In other words, the flooding, the oceans taking over the land is going to get more and more pronounced. So that's, let me think. I think that's going to be in about 5 years, probably not even quite 5 years. Yeah, Neptune and Aries. I have to look that one up. I don't really have that one memorized, but anyway, I'll mention it next time if I can look it up. Okay, moving on to Pluto. Pluto, my lovely planet Pluto. Pluto is probably, and people don't even realize, they just kind of malign Scorpio and Pluto. They don't realize that Pluto rules Scorpio and he has tremendous power to change lives. He is the catalyst for when we take hidden psychology and bring it up to the surface to deal with it. And when he understands that things are no longer the way he wants them to be, and he's extremely intuitive, extremely powerful in how he sees through the BS. He really understands true nature, and he does that through contrast. So here's truth, here's the murky untruth, or the thing that doesn't necessarily have value. He is about the value of something to the masses. And so wherever Pluto falls in your chart, you are much more given to mystery, to the hidden, to keeping things hidden, to feeling exposed emotionally, because that's his realm. He feels very connected to the emotional life of the individual. And because he is so profoundly deep emotionally and aware of truth on a very deep life level, he feels very exposed. And so, because of that exposure in our charts, he will close us down. Like, he will go, oh, I don't want to show you what I'm thinking, because doesn't everybody have like this deep quality about them? I don't want to show you because you could judge good or bad, which is what Scorpio does. And Pluto being the ruler of Scorpio. So Pluto inclines us to black and white thinking and seeing truth versus untruth, and very passionate on a deep spiritual level, like a higher vibration. Pluto brings out the truth in an altruistic way. In a negative influence, he hides it, and he acts with vengeance, and he can create deep, intense arguments and basically hurt you very deeply. And so Pluto is not, you can't take Pluto lightly. He is a force to be reckoned with. And wherever he goes and transits, whether it's changing signs, changing houses, oppositions to other planets, he is going to make a major change in your awareness of your psychology. And if you refuse to make that change, because Pluto can be very stubborn, he can make us stubborn about change, but he can also make the change happen. And that means that we will go along our path saying, this is my principle. And I believe that because I've done the work and I've given a value judgment, which is why he's the ruler of lawyers, he's the ruler of government, he's the ruler of insurance and the underworld. Like, he gets the value. And when we have a decision to make, if he wants it to be a certain way and it isn't happening that way for him, he will completely destroy that whole paradigm in order to rise like a phoenix from the ashes and make a new world and make something better. So he has the power of knowledge, and he also has the power of detachment, quite honestly. And he doesn't want to detach. He is extremely immersed in the feeling of that particular ideology. But if he can't make it be that kind of almost perfect way that he wants it, and knowing that that's the ultimate truth, he will demolish everything and build anew. And so that's where the power comes from, the ability to completely run to the hilt, trying to make things right, trying to make things as good as he can. And if that doesn't work, then he will demolish it and start anew. And that's the power, is like that ability to detach. So you can imagine Pluto in Aquarius, the intense power that has. And that is our future. That is the beginning of the age of Aquarius, is Pluto leaving Capricorn and completely demolishing the structures as we know it in order to rise from the ashes and make a more peaceful, cooperative existence. So look forward to that. That's 2023 into 2024. Okay, that's pretty much the zodiac. I want to go over a bit of what's coming up for the week. So give me a second to pause and I'll get right back. Okay, so today, like I said, in 2 hours, we're going to have the moon in Aries. And today's Thursday, probably irrelevant because I don't think many of you will hear or see this, but I will tell you anyway. Moon squares Venus this evening at 5:09 p.m. Eastern, 2:09 p.m. Pacific. And Moon in Aries answers to Mars. Mars answers to the Moon. So we are having a mutual reception, meaning each body is in each other's sign. And so they're going to basically, in my view, act as one. I think of the symbol of yin yang, where it spins and it goes from being black and white with a hint of each in a dot in the other side. And when you spin it, it just kind of becomes this gray circle. So there's this synergy going on between the moon and Mars at that time. And because the energy of Venus, and so that's the moon squaring Venus in Cancer. Venus in Cancer is going to be really sensitive, and the moon, her ruling planet, because she answers to the moon, is in Aries. He's answering to Mars, so Venus is ergo at odds with Mars. Venus and Mars, once again, I know we've had a couple months recently where Venus and Mars were squaring each other and not very happy. So that's male-female relations, and I can tell you it's probably going to ramp up for the next couple of days with Moon in Aries. I'm sorry, I'm just going to take this out. This is really bothering me right now. So, yeah, having the Moon in Aries is only going to continually incite the energy of Mars in Cancer. For the next couple of weeks, it's going to be pretty powerful, and then day after tomorrow, probably tomorrow night, which is Friday into Saturday, it's shooting. Every time we have this energy, it's emotionalism, and it's expressed through aggression and violence. And so that's what I foresee happening by the weekend. Unfortunately, it's there. And then that's only just the beginning to kick it off. Let's see what else. We've got Venus trine Jupiter in Pisces. So Venus in Cancer, trining Jupiter in Pisces, very watery, emotional. And kind of what I'm seeing here, this is Thursday night. I know you're not even going to probably hear this. I don't even know what's happening yet, but it's probably another event because, like I said, the aggression of Aries. And then we have this energy right after of the sensitivity and sentimentality, which always seems to be the morning. Mourning energy, morning energy. And having Venus trine Jupiter, Jupiter is transformation, transition. So it doesn't look like a very fun evening, honestly. And I hope I'm wrong, but, I've seen it time and time again. Friday's going to be a pretty good day overall. The only thing is until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a brief period of time, for a couple hours, we're going to have Moon conjunct Chiron in Aries, which means there is an aggressive wounding happening. And so that can be on a personal level or it can be on a global level because it is happening globally. But Friday overall, we've got some sextiles going on between the moon and the sun and also Saturn. So that's pretty good. And it can be a really good productive day with the moon in Aries sextile to Saturn in Aquarius. So it's ideas, it's taking action on them, and it's feeling really good about it. Okay, Saturday, the big ones, I can't go through every aspect, but I can tell you Mercury in Gemini is squaring Neptune in Pisces. So that's going to be probably arguments. It's like, like little friction arguments where probably even siblings or neighbors or, anything, education of a child, you're getting on your kid about their education. That's all the Mercury in Gemini. And then Pisces is just like, chill out. It's okay. It's all good. But, they're at odds because mental energy is really hyper. And Neptune in Pisces is very down, chill, it's cool, don't worry about it. And they're not together. So there's going to be a frustration with the mental side. Probably Mercury is going to bring us a bit of frustration because somebody isn't giving us that kind of mental backing that we need, that they're much more in their emotional side and not their mental side. So that's going to be frustrating. Mars is opposite Pluto exact at 3:45 p.m. on Saturday. Escalation of war energy. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens in Israel again. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some type of war energy coming through on multiple fronts on Saturday, because not only that, but we have Moon in Aries squaring Pluto. We have Moon in Aries squaring Mars in Cancer, and then the moon enters Taurus 10:46 p.m. Pacific and 1:46 a.m. on Sunday Eastern overnight. And so that can honestly calm it down, because then again, moon answers to Venus, but Venus is in Cancer right now, and Venus in Cancer answers to the moon, which is in Aries. So, well, actually, I take it back. I just said moon went into Taurus. So then the moon answers to Venus, and so basically, moon's answering to Venus, and Venus answers to the moon in Cancer. So there you go. So Sunday is going to be a real emotional feminine energy after Saturday being a little bit more masculine aggressive. And then we have a couple sextiles on Sunday, so it's a little bit more chill, a little bit more licking your wounds and feeling like you really need something that's pleasurable to do to get over a lot of what's going on. Let's see. Next week, I'm going to have to go through this fairly quickly because I've used a lot of time on this podcast. Monday, the moon is joined up with Uranus. So again, it's like that sense that my money, my desires, the material side of my life has to be tended to, but it's really giving you a lot of good ideas and a lot of insight into where you should put your money. And then there's a square with Saturn in Aquarius. I think the moon in Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius is going to probably be a little bit, the Saturn energy is going to be unhappy, because moon in Taurus is right near Uranus, and so having a square to Saturn, it's going to have the moon on the side of Uranus, and that means that the unusual eclectic energy is focused in coming through. I wish I could think of it as a situation that might give you an idea. I would also say, this just came in, that it's probably also going to be a really strong day Monday for storms, because of that Saturn in Aquarius and then the moon squaring it with a conjunction to Uranus. So there's probably going to be a bit of strong storm energy. And that can also translate to feeling agitated, feeling anxious. Anytime we have transits to Uranus or Saturn in Aquarius, it's going to be a little bit of that skittishness that the Aquarian energy can bring in. But overall, I think Monday it's going to be productive, and it's moon joins up in a sextile with Neptune overnight. And then come Tuesday, it's going to be a little bit more Earth energy, calm down, and Mars and the moon are in positive aspect on Monday. And then the moon enters Gemini at 3 in the afternoon, and a couple hours later, 3 hours later, squares Jupiter in Pisces. So again, every time we have this energy of mental, like remember we had Mercury squaring Neptune, and then now we've got the moon in Gemini squaring Jupiter in Pisces. So it's this Gemini Pisces energy that we're really continually feeling. And so it is that frenetic energy that's being tamped down by a water sign. And so look out for possibility in the evening on Tuesday of accidents, or an accident involving a movie actor, because that would be Pisces energy. And then Jupiter can also be a musician. And then we've got erratic energy with the Gemini trine to Saturn in Aquarius on Wednesday. And Wednesday energy it's again the mental energy that we find with Gemini and Aquarius, and not feeling necessarily grounded, but that's what Saturn's trying to get us to do. And the groundedness can also come from entrepreneurial endeavors and humanitarian endeavors, finding that out. So it's unbelievable. I keep getting phone calls in this 1 hour of the day. Nobody ever calls me in 1 hour, 3 calls. Okay. And then Thursday of next week is the solar eclipse and the lunar new moon at 19 degrees Gemini. Yes, it's going to be a big day. I'm going to just go through it with you real quick here. 6:53 a.m. These are all Eastern. I'm just going to keep it to Eastern. And if you're in Pacific or Mountain or Central, you can do the math. So Eastern time, moon joins up with the sun at 6:53 a.m., which is the new moon. That's the solar eclipse, meaning the moon comes between us. There's the sun, the moon, and Earth. And so the moon is eclipsing the sun. Okay, and then at 8:37 a.m., we have a conjunction to Mercury, which means Mercury is combust the sun, pretty close to combust the sun, because he's retrograding, going back towards the sun, and so they're right there. We have Neptune squaring the moon at 1:38 p.m. We have an inconjunct to Pluto at 8:07, and we have a conjunction to Mercury at 9:13 p.m. between the sun. So 9:13 p.m. of course is after dark, which means it's going to be on the other side of our hemisphere, but it is combust, and so that means that Mercury and the sun are going to be highly egotistical or egoic, and that it's going to be about, I said it, so it is true. And I think next Thursday, probably even Wednesday as it approaches, because once the moon is in Gemini, which again is Tuesday, that's going to be a really big time for politics. And I think it's, it just reinitiates that Trump story. And he is a Gemini. He is coming up on his birthday. This is the eclipse before his birthday. And, how I read this is he's going to be feeling himself, so to speak. He's full of himself. And it's going to be this really combustible energy. Of course, Mercury and the sun. Ego is getting in the way of seeing things clearly. And you have an inconjunct within an hour before that exact combust of the moon to Pluto, which is going to be a major life change. Inconjuncts are some of the most difficult aspects, and Pluto, major life change. And you've got the moon, which is the indicator. And so I see that as being a very big day in his world. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something to do with how he's behaved up to this point. And again, June 6th, which is in 3 days, so June 6th is Sunday, is exactly 6 months out from the insurrection, January 6th. And so the sun is exactly opposite within 4 days of this combust energy with Mercury. So that story is reinitiated. He is feeling it, he's feeling it. And I think he's going to push even harder on his storyline. But Pluto in conjunct to the moon, and moon square Neptune, and also moon joining Mercury and the sun at that point. Think about it. Mercury, sun, and the moon are all at the same degree in the sky on Thursday. And squaring Pluto. So it's going to be an incredible expression of energy. It is ego, it is words, and it's going to hit newspapers, it's going to hit any kind of media outlet, because Gemini rules the media and broadcasting. So there's very strong chance that there's going to be a lot of attention put on the media on that day. So heads up. And anything that involves education, children, teachers, again, all the Gemini energy is a day for pets. It covers the gamut. It's a lot of intense energy, and it's a new moon. So I would say, if you're planning on doing some type of ceremony, I would recommend getting rid of old ideas on that day. That would be the best use of this energy, is to really get real with your ego, get real with what information you don't want to carry along any further. And probably a lot of stuff's going to be coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if this has to do also with children. And, lately we've been having a lot of stories with children being stolen. And of course, that's likely associated with sex trafficking and slaves and slavery, sex slaves. I don't like talking about all this. It's unbelievable to me, because it's been a trigger point for me all my life, how children are treated poorly. And this just goes to the heart of the worst possible scenario that you could even involve children in. And so I know, to stop this kind of thing, we have to see it for what it is, and we have to do something about it. But it is not anything that I mean, as a sensitive person, as an empath, it makes me livid. It makes me livid to my core that anybody could ever do anything to harm children, innocent little kids. It just drives me nuts. So if that is in fact what is going to be coming out, I just have to hold strongly to the notion that it has to come out to be dealt with. And I hope you all will do the same. Mars enters Leo the very next day on Friday, which just reinforces that connection to home, family, and children. And so it's going to be, Mars in Leo is a fire energy. It's going to be really strong. I was going to say authoritarian. It is leadership, but it could be authoritarian. Right now we're getting this pushback, I think, from a lot of men who are in power being more dictatorial. So, but I do embrace the energy of Leo as a creative, playful energy, and I really love that. So Mars will answer to the sun. Mars answering to the sun at that point means answering to Gemini. So I know, is Cancer? Did the sun go into Cancer? Oh my God. No, Gemini. Okay, too much information. It's starting to cross wires in my brain. With that, I'm going to leave you for the week. I hope you have a wonderful week. My advice to you would be, yes, observe what you're feeling during these very powerful transits. Observe where your mind wanders to, because your mind's going to wander. Gemini has so much energy coming at it from every direction that you need to ground like electricity. So go out, walk on the beach, walk in the sand, get your shoes off and touch the earth and hug a tree. So anyway, ground yourself, because it's going to be a pretty wild ride this week. I'm not going to kid you. Anyway, take care. Love to see you here. Please do share, and bye. Love ya.
Well, check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.